Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our April meeting of the Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club. My name is Lauren Jasinski. I am the current chair of the club, and I'm going to go ahead and let my officers introduce themselves as well. Arv, go ahead.
Morning, everyone. Arv, vice chair.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ian. I'm the treasurer for the club.
And
hi, everyone. I'm Rachel, and I am the secretary of the club.
Awesome. Ian, do you want to go ahead and do the treasurer's report right now so I don't forget about it?
Yeah, sounds good. So we had, during the month of March, $160 of income from dues. We had $687 towards the scholarship. And our total checking balance, which does not include scholarship funds, is $3,756.08. We didn't have any new expenses or anything last month, so our accounts are all in good shape. And we'll talk more about the scholarship balance and what we're looking to fill in just a few moments.
Yeah, we have some exciting news about that, but we're really excited that it's already at $860. As promised, we are going to be getting to Kathleen, Duffy, and Shar Douglas, who are kind of our joint guest speakers for this month to talk about growth and development and our master plan in Royal Oak. But before we do go to them, I want to turn the floor over to Tony Reisdorf. He is a Teamster 337 member and has been a part of the ongoing 7-Up strike that's been happening in Redford. And we just wanted to get an update from him. So Tony, you've got the floor. Good morning.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate everybody's time. Sorry, my phone's giving me a hard time trying to get this video going. There we go.
Cool. Hey, good morning.
Good morning. So we're very happy to report that on Thursday we were able to come to resolution with the company. Thanks to all the hard work from our 7-Up membership, we were able to ratify a 5-year agreement, and that wouldn't have happened without all the help that we've had from all these different organizations like yourself, from political leaders, from other labor leaders. It's really been overwhelming, all the support that we've had. And from those guys digging in like they did, they were able to get themselves a much better contract than what was previously offered to us. And we're just very thankful to get a ratification and have 5 years of security moving forward with 7-Up.
Tony, had you been out on the strike line over the last couple weeks?
Yes. Yep. I'm very proud to say that I put the most hours in out there just because, I was so proud of our group to believe in the cause, to believe in themselves. And yeah, it was pretty incredible. It was the craziest 3 weeks of my life. But at the end of the day, our membership got much closer to what they wanted. We didn't get everything we wanted, but like I said, we got a much better deal than we originally would have had.
That's wonderful. What was the overall feel out there? People have been satisfied with this, or is there some more work that you guys are going to be putting in? So
we had a 66% of the group voted to accept this contract. So, I'm good with that number. Obviously we didn't want it to be real close, but the majority of the membership did approve the deal, which at the end of the day, if they're good, I'm good.
That's great. Thanks so much for joining us. Any questions, comments for Tony? I'm not seeing any. Well, let us know what we can do to support you, moving forward. We're big supporter of unions, and we want what's best for everyone, for our workers out there. So we are very excited that we're celebrating some good news this morning. But let us know what we can do moving forward, okay?
Thank you so much for all the help that your organization has provided, and made a lot of great new contacts that I tend to keep in touch with. Thank you very much.
Good. Yeah. Come back and give us an update whenever you want. Okay.
Wonderful. You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, Tony. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Cool. Good. So Tony is a Royal Oak resident too, and so we're glad to have him as a part of our community. I will go ahead and turn the floor then over to Kathleen Duffy and Shar Douglas. Kathleen Duffy is a consultant with Smith Group and a Royal Oak resident, and so we're going to hear a little bit about the needs of our city's master plan and why that's being updated right now. If you have the agenda open, I do have a link to our current master plan, which hasn't been updated since, Shar, give me a year.
1999.
Okay, so we're in need of some revision, and that's what we're going to be chatting about today. So as always, Kathleen and Shar are going to have the floor for a little while, and then we'll take questions. If you have questions as they speak, you can ask them in two different ways. You can either type them in the chat, and we can get to them kind of when we get to the questions and answer period, or they'll answer them along the way. Or you can always raise your hand. That reaction has moved, actually. So if you are in Zoom, if you hover over your menu at the bottom of your screen and you click on the reactions button, raise hand, and your reactions, if you want to give them a little like party popper or thumbs up to anything they say, you can do that there too. But that's where the raise hand button is now. Also, if anyone is in need of it, there is a closed captioning option too that should be in your bottom menu. There's either the closed caption icon, or you might need to click more to turn those on, and it will turn on real-time closed captioning at the bottom if you're having a hard time hearing any of our speakers. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you, Kathleen. Thanks for being here.
Great, thanks, Lauren. Good morning, everyone. As Lauren said, I'm a planning consultant, but proud Royal Oak resident for the last 12 years, and I'm excited to share with you all today some of the background and kind of inspiration for planning and zoning, and then Shar's going to get in a little bit more on what the city's hoping to undertake. The master plan is old, but not the oldest. I recently replaced a master plan from the 60s. So we're doing better on that front in the city. But this is what I do as a profession, and as a proud Democrat, I'm loving the like synergy and intersection of these things. I don't usually get to be very political with my job, and so I appreciate getting to hopefully build some advocacy among like-minded individuals like yourselves. So just a quick introduction. Urban planning is a long-range tool that helps communities envision their future. I think sometimes our planning commissions get caught up in the day-to-day of approvals of plans and site plans and things like that, but my favorite part of my job is really thinking that long-range visioning and building consensus among people and making sure that the vision is embedded in a plan that is then implemented over time. So it's really a long-range vision, usually 20 or 30 years in the future, and it's a policy document. So the zoning ordinance is regulations, but the master plan itself is a policy document that the Planning Commission and Council and others should reference on a daily basis. Ideally, is the hope that there are a set of goals and objectives and very specific policies and actions that will help achieve that overall vision. So when you think about building consensus through the goal of all of this is to define a set of community values that are then embedded in the master plan, which then guides future zoning revisions, which then leads to the kind of development we want. So if we start at the beginning of the process, again, master plans should be updated every 5 years. So we're a little behind the game on that. And the city is just beginning to think about getting a new master plan started. So they're starting to budget for it. So it's not that we've started the process yet, but the idea is we want to build support around why it's important to have one so that our zoning can then reflect the changes that the community as a whole wants to see changed. So typically a master plan has some components related to transportation, economic development, housing and neighborhoods. That's going to be a key component of this one going forward. We're on the brink of a housing crisis, and affordability continues to be a great challenge among every community in the state of Michigan. But how things intersect with infrastructure and the environment. And so as we're thinking about all of these different components that contribute to the quality of life that is, quintessential to the city of Royal Oak, we want to make sure that we're layering in a bunch of different trends that have really been brought to the surface in the last 20 years, which is things like placemaking and smart growth, thinking about how we redevelop instead of just building new, which we don't have that problem in Royal Oak because we're built out. There's not very many vacant pieces of land left. But when we are redeveloping, how tall is too tall? How do we have a vibrant place that maintains that awesome character that is the identity of our community, but also being sustainable in that? And so how do we prioritize things like green infrastructure and non-motorized transportation. And as our baby boomers age, aging in place is becoming more and more of a hot topic of making sure that people are safe in their homes, and there are a variety of housing options for both young families starting out and retirees looking to downsize. And prioritizing public health and making sure that those social determinants of health are really addressed in our neighborhood scale planning, and thinking about how people walk to places. We don't really have much of a problem with that. You can walk to most commercial areas from your home in Royal Oak. We're lucky that way. But really thinking about environmental justice and the impacts of climate on our entire infrastructure system. So it's really thinking holistically about a large variety of systems level challenges that face a city over time. So when it comes to why we're talking to all of you about this today, is we want to start to build support for why a new master plan is needed, and hope that you will come out to participate during the process. So fundamentally, a master plan is an opportunity for the entire community to come together and get a shared sense of consensus-based visioning, and having that be really accountable and transparent to the constituents. So this is not the Planning Commission's plan. It is not the City Commission's plan. It is the residents and the people who live here and the businesses. And so it's really an important opportunity to talk about those issues that are so fundamental to what it's like to live in a modern city. And obviously COVID has really challenged us on that front. And so really gathering around a common set of ideas and best practices, and building those relationships for implementation down the future as well. So really trying to dig in deep about what is it that defines us as a city, and what makes us special, and what are our values that should be guiding every decision-making process. Especially now, I've been teaching lots of trainings in the last year on should we even be doing public engagement during the pandemic, and the answer is a resounding yes. So we can be sensitive to the challenges that people are having, but we've actually found in the last year we've had more public engagement than we've had in the past, because it's virtual, because it's a hybrid option of people able to chime in on their own time. People are busy, people aren't coming out to public meetings as much anymore. So how can we build a robust set of tools to really build a transparent process, both online, in person, continuing throughout the process, but after the plan is done as well. So getting everyone's voices to the table, reaching out to those groups that are typically less inclined to participate, whether they're busy parents or people of color who don't feel like their voice is being heard, or working people that work shifts that don't allow them to come to typical evening meetings. So really, obviously the intersection with the racial justice reckoning of the last year as well has made these topics even more important as we're looking at building a robust public engagement process. So when we think about building those shared values, it's building these principles, like I said, that both provide the foundation for the master plan itself, but that percolate through everything that the city does, whether it's the Planning Commission making decisions about amendments to the zoning ordinance to then ship to City Commission for their consideration. It's really about representing that broad diversity and making strategic decisions about what we want to be in the future. So when we think about 20, 30, 40 years out in the future, what do we hope that we will be able to tell ourselves about how we got to this point? And a quick example of that, I just finished writing the Las Vegas master plan, and it's up for adoption this month. Took a little bit longer than we wanted with the pandemic in there, but this is a set of guiding principles that we wrote with them. And these 5 guiding principles are the foundation throughout the entire plan. So every recommendation that's in there meets almost all 5 of them. Our goal was 1 or more, but as we realized we could craft things to really make sure that we're hitting all of these components. And by crafting strong values and guiding principles, those then get tracked via metrics. So setting some benchmarks for ourselves. That's kind of the modern way of writing master plans, is saying we want to be here by this date, and really being actionable in that, and making sure that the recommendations that come out of the plan meet those principles, but also that we're tracking them and knowing how we're doing on meeting those goals. So again, just to kind of like summarize where we're going is what should be engagement during this process, engaging all of you as strong advocates for good public policy in the city, thinking about as we are potentially embarking upon this process in the coming year or so, making that list of how do we reach a variety of different people as we rethink public engagement during this time of social justice reawakening. How do we make sure that we're acknowledging our own biases and how we've related to our neighbors in the past, but also building an advocacy network to go beyond just defining those values, but advocating, empowering, and repairing the damage that we've done. Historically, urban planners have made some pretty poor decisions in the past. Urban renewal in the 50s and 60s is a pretty good example of that, and all the redlining and stuff like that. So we as planners who used to try to stay pretty neutral on things, I'm charging my profession to be a little bit, to go back to our roots of advocating and making sure that as we harness things as a local community, that we can build those relationships, but also repair some of the damage that's been done in the past. So be thinking of ways that would be awesome to get people's engagement, you know, thinking of pop-up things. I think we're hopefully on the downswing of the pandemic in terms of being able to have some in-person things, but we build websites. We've been doing take-home surveys, little neighborhood conversations, meetups in the park. We're really rethinking how to get that input and whose voice is missing and how do we reach them. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shar here in 1 second. I just want, as she's sharing some of the ideas of the Planning Commission's working on, it's really important that you all feel empowered by all of this. I think that we're all so busy. And again, people usually show up to meetings that are more willing to be angry and cranky about things. And so as we all know, having positive voices that can come and voice their support, whether it's in person or virtually or with a letter in supportive motions and things like that, it's really important to get those supporters out there. I think a lot of us in the public sector have taken a beating by angry constituents. So getting people that support things would be awesome, because I think it's a time that we're seeing this intersection of democracy and democratic principles coming to the forefront. The president's infrastructure bill this week was like a gold mine for us urban planners. If it can get past the different bits of his plan, it's really going to have some meaningful, impactful change. So let's advocate and be strong members of the community that tell the story about why new housing is needed. So with that, I'm going to toss it over to Shar.
Shar, you muted.
Yep, there we go. Got it. Just pushing buttons here. Thanks,
Awesome.
Kathleen.
Good.
And I'm going to go here and share. So as one of the things Kathleen said was communities have to update their master plans every 5 years. And we have updated our master plan every 5 years, but it's been a rubber stamp. It's been, let's look at the one from 1999. Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. Move on. So one of the issues that Kathleen referred to that is an issue for us in Royal Oak, I mean, as we celebrate the values of our homes rising, that's also keeping people from being able to live in Royal Oak who want to live in Royal Oak. And so, I mean, to me, I think everybody who wants to live here should live here. I mean, what we see right now is that our screen is not advancing. So hang on a sec, bear with me. Here we are. Try this. There we go. Our police officers want to live here, but can't afford to. Teachers, Lauren, you're lucky to live here, but there are many others who can't. The people who serve us our food, restaurant workers, grocery store employees should be able to live here. Truck drivers, young people, our seniors, many want to age in their own homes, but others would like to find a smaller, more accessible home, and they struggle to find that here in Royal Oak. So right now, our Planning Commission is looking at kind of two broad subjects. One is to update our multifamily zoning, and the other is to offer a wider variety of forms of housing. And we expect that, or the Planning Commission right now is talking about putting together a town hall to discuss some or all of these subjects. We haven't scheduled that yet, but I do think that's imminent. And there's also the possibility or the idea of a full rewrite of our master plan coming up. So first, talking about multifamily housing, this is apartment buildings. The question arises, or the questions have arisen and are being considered, should we allow more housing units per acre? Should we allow those developments to have fewer parking spaces per unit? Right now, it's 2 parking spaces per unit, but we see automobile use declining. We live in a walkable community with access to public transit. And if the new administration's bill comes about, we will have even more money to spend on public transportation. So other considerations for multifamily buildings are, right now, they are not allowed, they need special permission to be located in a commercial corridor, in commercial zoning. Here's an example of some multifamily in commercial zoning. What we are considering would allow them to locate there by right, not having to seek special permission. It would also allow them to be so as you look at this apartment building on our right, you see it being quite close to the Bingo Pet Salon. On the left, it's much further away from the building that's next to it. And the proposed zoning change would let these multifamily buildings be closer to the lot line. It would eliminate or reduce setbacks. Right now, multifamily zoning is limited to 30 feet in height, and that's based kind of arbitrarily on the height that we allow in single family zoning. So the 2 buildings you see on the left are probably about 30 feet high, but one would think that in a commercial corridor, you could allow additional height, such as you see in the Billings development on the right. So as we look forward to the possibility of that town hall, I will make sure, I post throughout Facebook, but make sure that the members of the Democratic Club participate so that your voices can be heard. And I will point out that both Mayor Fournier, Club member Paul Curtis, and I are on the Planning Commission, and Arvretti is now on the Zoning Board. So we will all remind you when these things are coming up. So here's the other consideration, and that's the idea of expanding the forms of housing that people want. When surveys are done, some people may want to live in a high rise, some people may need single family housing, but there's enormous demand in the country for what they call missing middle housing. These are duplexes, triplexes, and I'll give you some examples that you'll see right here in our city. So here's a duplex. It's on Farnham. This is in a residential zone. Right now, duplexes are not allowed in all residential zones. And one of the questions that's been asked, brought up with the Planning Commission is, should they be allowed by right in any residential district? I look at these 2,500 square foot houses and I see 2 1,200 square foot flats. These could accommodate young families, singles. I like the idea of a senior being able to live on the ground floor with easy access and excuse me, and then having either their family members live above them to help them out, or to be able to rent out that flat for additional income. We have small apartments scattered around the city. Again, the one on the left is at Farnham and Center. The one on the right is just off Catalpa. And garden apartments, particularly like the one on the right, are a good example of the kind of missing middle housing that people desire, that preserves some green space and yet concentrates housing, makes good use of the available land. Accessory dwelling units, sometimes these are called granny flats. This is an open question. Should we allow those? I hear, people make a case on both sides. There are people who don't like the idea. There are people who do. I want to have this discussion. I want to bring this to the public and let the people, as Kathleen said, in a transparent, inclusive process, decide what they want for our city. Developments like you see here, turning a garage into an apartment, can again help house a senior, house a young family. And the example on the right is a perfect example. This is right here in Royal Oak. The family grew up in the main house for many years, and their daughter lived in the garage apartment. And there came a time when mom, who was living in the main house, said, I'm tired of keeping up this big house. I want to move into the apartment, and you, daughter, can live in the main house. So this is a perfect example of how accessory dwelling units can serve families. So as Kathleen said, and for many reasons, it's time to update our master plan. It's 20 years old. That's an entire generation of people. Climate change, the revelation of COVID and the ability for people to work at home, the anticipation of autonomous electric cars and vehicles by demand, the aging baby boom, the demand for housing and the demand for affordable housing, the changing nature of our industrial zoning, all of these are reasons to redo our master plan comprehensively. And the good news is that the Planning Commission just approved a capital improvement plan that has $300,000 in it to do a new master plan. And in the planning world, I talk with professional planners all the time. Kathleen will raise her hand at this. $300,000 is what you need to do a proper job, especially with the challenges of community engagement and the need to and the desire to bring as many people into the process to hear as many voices as possible. So the City Commission will ultimately have to approve this capital improvement plan, and I will make sure people know about it. So if you agree, you'll be able to support it at a future time. And repeating what Kathleen said, a master plan has to reflect a vision of all of the people of our community. Here you see examples of people engaging in in-person engagement, but the mixed blessing of COVID is that it has tested our planners to help them find new ways to bring people into the process who could never participate before. I look at seniors who don't want to drive after dark, who don't want to drive at all. And as Kathleen said, people who work different shifts who can't necessarily participate at 7 o'clock at night, which is when these events all take place. So I look forward to both the short-term town hall that I talked about previously, and also the idea of a comprehensive master plan that really reflects everyone's vision of our future. And I'll stop share. Thanks, everybody, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, both of you, for that. Kathleen, that was a really wonderful overview, and it's exciting to hear, like you said, to really be pushing some of our industries and some of our professions to think more about the social impact, because I think everyone is going to need to right now, right? The world is changing and we have to move along with it. And then Shar, that's really exciting to hear the direction that Royal Oak is going. So there's a lot of talk in the chat about the price of houses right now, and just like whether or not people living in the community can continue to afford to live in the community. Where does that play a role in these plans? How do we protect that and make sure that people can afford to live here?
It's a very complicated, it's an easy question with a complicated set of answers.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's a lot of initiatives going on statewide right now as well, trying to pass some more bills legislatively on helping finance developers, trying to build more attached units. I think the biggest piece that a community can do through a planning and zoning effort is remove barriers two different housing types. And so if anyone's really curious, read about Minneapolis 2040, which is they basically allow anything up to a triplex, which would be 3 units. They don't have any single family zoning left. So it doesn't mean that single family can't be built there, but they are going to the extreme that says, you know, we think that housing is a right and we need to allow more units built. And so they simple things in zoning. And I say simple, they're simple fixes that require a ton of community buy-in, support, and education. But it's like Shar was saying, removing some of the barriers to multiple family housing, but also integrating what we call those missing middle housing types into neighborhoods, the accessory dwelling units, duplexes. We historically built that way. There are lots of quads and duplexes and triplexes and embedded you know, small apartment buildings in Royal Oak. And then when zoning became a thing in the early mid 20th century, we kind of superimposed single family zoning onto those things. So it's a low hanging fruit that will take a lot to work on to get to that point. But when it comes to actually like lowering costs, it's just a much more complicated system. So construction costs are exponentially high right now. There's a lumber tariff situation that's going on. So it's about building modular units. But even that, the closest plant for modular housing is in Indiana. And so the travel costs sometimes outweigh the benefit. So it's about we're talking about the supply side. Like that's what the city has the most control over, is getting more housing units built. The demand side is helping homeowners and renters afford those units. And so I saw someone ask about requiring new multifamily units have a certain percentage be affordable. And we can't technically do that in Michigan. It's called inclusionary zoning. So that's one of the things that we think is not likely going to be able to be passed legislatively. Maybe Representative Ellison, we can get to charge that. No, I'm just kidding. But in general, those types of things can happen when the city is providing some sort of abatement, or if it's city-owned land, you can then require those things, but we can't put it into zoning that you have to require certain amounts of zoning of units be affordable.
And I'll jump in and say that the City Commission itself has directed staff to develop a menu of community benefits that it could extract when a developer is coming to the city for special consideration. That is, if they want a planned unit development, if they want a zoning variance, if we are selling public land, then if we have this menu of options that we can offer to negotiate with those developers, one of those options could be low-cost housing units if it's a multifamily development.
I'm not aware of there being an affordability study done for the city, Shar. Ferndale recently updated theirs, so they don't like to be compared to Royal Oak, but we can compare ourselves to them. It kind of gets at a lot of the same things, so I'm just going to link to that here, some really good recommendations. And they're looking at they just released an RFP this week to update their master plan and climate and build a climate action plan. So housing is front and center there as well. So read about that. There is a good analysis and summary of what can happen locally.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Comparison is okay. Shar, you probably have a closer answer to this. Lisa was wondering what the current timing is for that development. Do we have sort of a timeline yet for when these decisions are going to be start being made?
The capital improvement plan will be implemented in the coming fiscal year, so the 2021 fiscal year. So once we approve that budget, theoretically, we could go out for bids for, because certainly the master planning process is going to need an outside consultant. We don't have the internal staff to handle it, but possibly we could go out for bids on that after the start of the fiscal year, so after July 1. I hope. I will push for that.
Cool. Tom, question?
Yeah, this question for Kathleen. In Royal Oak, we got this group of people. We variously refer to them as the crazies or the haters or whatever. But when we start talking about the need for affordable housing, which we definitely need, I can imagine the vile racist and classist comments they're going to say, but during the community engagement process, how do you deal with people like that?
It's hard. I have been thrown under the bus for that very reason before. So it starts with strong education and communication. So Shar talking about firefighters, teachers, nurses. So we're really not going to want to call anything, I hate to say it, affordable housing. We need to talk about attainable housing, attainable workforce housing, and being very proactive and very unified in how we talk about that. And it's about storytelling. It's about people, as much about people who already live here as it is about people who want to live here, who work here and things like that. And so like Shar mentioned, in terms of the entire gamut of seniors, it's hard to, how can you argue against seniors not being able to afford to live in their home anymore because of the, like, so it's about building layer upon layer of education and awareness, frankly. And someone mentioned, do we try and do a study ahead of the master plan? That's a great idea. Getting an understanding, and there are some basics that you can pull from online sources on affordability things, but again, it's affordability for all. And so we have a lot of the HUD and CDBG stuff is for the lowest of the low income. And the crisis right now in Michigan is that middle. And so it's not that we're ignoring the very low income people, but they have a means theoretically through HUD to have some of their needs met. It's the people who are just like working people that can't afford things and there's no housing for them. People are talking about the $400,000 houses and all the little bungalows being built up. So fundamentally, the housing market is a tricky thing, and there's only so much that government can do to impose things on that. But I think it's about talking also about the resources and homeowner education and resources for people to ADA accessible, retrofit their house. And so trying to be very strategic in the communication, education, and marketing around the issues. It's a toxic topic that, like you said, is almost always veiled racism. And so, yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I'm part of a couple different committees statewide trying to figure out how we develop a set of resources that can try and personalize this to everyone.
Looks like we've got a couple more questions from the audience. I do want to be mindful of our time because we do have a full agenda. So we'll take questions from Frank, Amanda, Paul, and Gary. And then I'm sure Amanda, Kathleen and Shar, if you want to put your contact information in the chat, we can, continue to have this. This is an important conversation that we know is not, like you said, it's not quickly answered. Frank, you've got a question?
Yes, good morning, everybody. Having moved here about 6 months ago from Massachusetts, a lot of the things you're talking about here are there as well. I wondered, is the community in a position to be able to establish some sort of a linkage to these developments that we're talking about in terms of how the developer, if they're interested, would contribute financially to some of the challenges that a development presents, like the sewer and water system. The roadways out here, as everybody knows, have a reputation for being in tough shape. Is that a direction that any contribution they make might go towards? I don't know whether you're in the kind of position where you can try to get that from a developer, and I was curious about
that. That's another Michigan legislature. We're not allowed to have linkages or impact fees unless it's related to like Shar was saying, a PUD or a publicly owned land. So we can't just like impose that on everybody right now. But that's a good, like setting up a housing trust fund, for instance, is one of my ideas that would be a way for people to voluntarily contribute into that, or setting that up as a mechanism at Oakland County or the city, that kind of stuff. It has to be more voluntary and incentive based, unfortunately.
That makes trying to get something like that approved really challenging, because multifamily introduces all kinds of challenges to the government systems and the community. Whoops.
You're an important guy, Frank. Great. It looks like Amanda, you've got your hand up.
Sure. So Royal Oak is doing a sustainability and climate action plan. It will involve community engagement on energy, transportation, water, waste, green space, and quality of life. How does that get integrated in the master plan so we don't have wasted efforts?
In fact, and Kathleen will confirm this as well, many communities incorporate their sustainability plan as part of their master plan because so much of the community engagement efforts, I mean, would be duplicative. Is that right? If we play our cards right, we'll take, and I should acknowledge Amanda here, she chairs our Environmental Advisory Board, which is the lead agency on developing our sustainability plans. So if we write our RFP correctly or set our expectations of a master plan correctly, we might be able to check that sustainability box pretty quickly by rolling the sustainability plan into the master plan. I'd love to see that happen.
Great. Paul and or Claire?
All right, yeah, thank you. This has been great. And yeah, I'm going to follow up with Amanda, and I'm working very closely with Amanda. I'm also on the Environmental Advisory Board. I guess I would like to know, since, with respect to the master plan, how is it utilized beyond zoning and development? Are there specific programs that result from a master plan that are implemented within a short period of time?
Absolutely. So while it's fundamentally a land use plan, and that's where it all started from legislatively, we include stuff in there all the time that's just covers the gamut of programmatic, regulatory, capital improvements. I mean, you can really make it with a budget of $300,000. That gives you the ability to make it very robust beyond just the planning department, for sure. A systems-wide approach to everything, and then layering in the sustainability and climate action plan will help reinforce that as well. So yeah, it can be all inclusive.
And Gary?
Yeah, so my bias is that we don't live in a vacuum. We're a fiefdom. And from that, is there any advantages, or is it advantageous for us to create a coordinated master plan by inviting Ferndale, Madison Heights, Clawson, Berkeley, etc., to help us all develop simultaneously a master plan where we could benefit each other? Is that worthwhile?
Yes, that can happen.
Go, Kathleen.
I was just gonna say, so Ferndale just released their RFQ this week, our RFP that we are hoping to go after. Would be nice to work on theirs. Yes, so part of the city specific master plans is that they each, you're supposed to talk to your neighbors, but I think there is a more collective thing that could be potentially facilitated by Oakland County or something to be a bit more strategic across the different cities. It obviously would require some coordinated efforts. It's going to be hard enough to get our Royal Oak people to agree on things, let alone multiple jurisdictions, but we always encourage multi-jurisdictional planning. And so it's just a matter of figuring out how to align all those efforts. I know Huntington Woods is in the process of updating theirs for the same reason related to housing. And Berkeley has been talking about it a little bit lately, and Madison Heights just updated theirs. So I think we're all kind of in that same mindset, is are there any shared initiatives that could result as like an implementation strategy collectively, potentially?
Yeah, that said, when a community develops or updates its master plan, it's required to notify adjacent communities. So we on the Planning Commission see those as Madison Heights recently announced it's going to update its master plan. But it's sort of the nature of the Home Rule Act that puts us into silos and kind of works against that idea of sub-regional planning. There is the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, which does coordinate a number of things, recreation planning or communicating recreation amenities. Certainly transportation planning falls under SEMCOG, and housing. I mean, when you talk about housing is absolutely a regional issue, and yet we tend to all deal with it in our individual cities. So while I would love to see more, again, sub-regional planning, there are sort of legal barriers to that.
I know that our guest speaker, usually the time that we have allotted is never enough time to cover everything, especially with an issue this huge, right? We can talk about social justice, we can talk about transit, we can talk about affordability. So there's so much to tackle here. Maybe we can invite both Kathleen and Shar back kind of as this process evolves, right? So that we can continue to be part of the conversation. I do want to move on to some other parts in our agenda just to make sure that we get through everything that we hear from everybody. But Kathleen and Shar, if you'd like to continue to maybe answer some of the questions in the chat, that may be helpful, or like I said, share any contact information that you might have so that we can be sure that everyone's being heard. Yeah, like Arv said, so one of the things that we are trying to do is to kind of carry on the conversations from our monthly meetings to our monthly bar nights, just so that the conversation is a little bit more informal. So if you are really curious about this, if you're interested in it, Kathleen, maybe you could join us this month, and we can continue to brainstorm some of these things and talk about how we can be involved. So thank you both so much for your time and attention. That was so informative and interesting, and you can tell we have a really engaged group here about some of the answers that we want. So we look forward to hearing some of the updates and directions about this. I do want to go ahead and move on to a couple more introductions. If you are brand new to the club, if you've either not joined us for a monthly meeting before, or if this is your first time here in quite a while, would anybody like to introduce themselves and say hello and tell us what brings you here? This is just a chance for us to welcome some new members and to see what sorts of things interest you. You can go ahead and just raise your hand, or feel free to just come off mute and jump into the conversation. Anybody brand new to our meetings or first time here in a long time?
I'll go ahead and chat. I'm Claire Zalmansky. This is my first meeting ever. I moved to Royal Oak in November of 2018. So kept getting invites and seeing things and being like, I should do that, I should do that. And so this is actually my first official meeting. I paid my dues when it started, so officially joined, but very excited to actually get a little bit more knowledgeable about local government here. I was in Detroit previously, and so it's a little bit harder to get involved on, this level in a city that big. So I'm excited, and thanks for having me.
We're thrilled to have you. Thanks for joining us. Anybody else, first time here or first time in a long time? I'm seeing some new names, but it's okay if we don't want to speak. We understand there's a lot of people in our meetings. Cool. Well, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you don't have, the capabilities to speak up. But Claire, we're glad you're here, and we'll definitely find a spot for you to be involved. I do want to move into just a couple announcements before we get to our updates from all of our elected officials and candidates and party announcements and things like that. The first thing that I want to talk about is and actually really almost like a job posting, I guess, that we have for the first time. Paul Weil has been a incredibly dedicated and an important member over the last couple of years, and he's served in a really important role in being our precinct delegate liaison. He's going to take a step back and well, not a step back, a step sideways, I guess, and become and dedicate some of his time to our environmental sustainability and those efforts going on in the city. And we need somebody to fill that position. So there is a link in this month's agenda to sort of a job description that Paul worked up. And then you can also reach out to him specifically if you've got questions. We did brainstorm this position a little bit at our last board meeting, that we think that we could fill it in a couple different ways. If you're a current precinct delegate who is looking to take on a little bit more responsibility, we think that this could be a great position for you. If you are interested in becoming a precinct delegate in the future and want to learn more about that role and the things that our PDs do, we also think that that could be a great way to fill this position as well. Like Paul mentioned in his in the little write-up there, we've it's the time commitment to this position will vary based on an election year. Obviously, as it gets closer and closer to election cycles, there's a little bit more involvement. And then in between years, it's more of just a maintenance and communication role. And you'll work closely with the Oakland County Precinct Delegate Network as well. We also think that this could potentially be a position that's filled by two different people that could co-chair this and work together. If there was maybe somebody that was with a little bit more experience and somebody new that wanted to get more involved and kind of linked into this network, we think that that could be a great position for you. Paul, anything to add? Any comments that you'd like to kind of toss in there, or do we have any questions from the audience for Paul specifically if you're considering this?
So yeah, thanks, Lauren. Thanks for shared a lot more. I was prepared to say more, but you said most of it for me, or a lot.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just thought I'd tell a little bit about the Democratic Precinct Delegates of Oakland County. They're really the organization that created the precinct delegate liaison position. They were established by a group of Oakland County precinct delegates, and their mission is to recruit, train, support, and retain Democratic precinct delegates throughout the county. And they're also known as DIPDOC, the acronym. They're also, they work closely with all the local Democratic clubs, the Oakland Democratic Party, the Michigan Democratic Party, and the campaigns of candidates as well. Yeah, just to give people a little bit more understanding of what the responsibilities are. The precinct delegate liaison serves as a contact person between our club, it would be, and DIPDOC. They're also a key contact with the Democratic Party and candidate campaigns within our jurisdiction. They help precinct delegates. They help recruit and train precinct delegates, so work with DIPDOC. DIPDOC has a really nice training program. There are a number of folks who've put together a lot of literature, and they offer training programs, but the precinct delegate will help coordinate and be cognizant of that and be able to distribute that information. And then with that, then support our precinct delegates as they fill their role. And last, the precinct delegate will assist the Democratic Party and candidates with coordination of canvassing and other get out the vote activities. So yeah, I estimate I probably spent about 20 hours a month, during those months preceding even year elections, and and off times more like 5 hours a month. So not a huge ask, but it does require some time. And certainly if one spends more time, they're likely to get better results. We could always use more precinct delegates for getting out the vote. And so, yeah, I feel like, given my current commitments, I'm falling short on doing some of that recruiting. And I think it would be great if someone else could step in and provide that. So yeah, just to say that, I also did want to say a couple other things related to the position. I wanted to acknowledge that currently Nicole Beatty and the 11 for Congress team is in the process of printing door hangers to be distributed by precinct delegates to Democratic voters in their precinct. And the door hangers are basically a thank you to Democratic voters for voting. It highlights the role of precinct delegates and provides them with contact information of the precinct delegates in their precinct. And thus far there are 14 Royal Oak precinct delegates who acknowledged that they're interested in distributing these door hangers. Currently, there's not a specific date as to when this will take place, but likely sometime this month. So, something, Nicole reached out to me, what do you think about this? I polled our precinct delegates, let her know who was interested. This is kind of the coordination role that takes place. And, this is an activity that's currently taking place to let everybody know. Last, I just wanted to acknowledge, Melanie Macy's reached out to the precinct delegates to get their support for incumbents in the upcoming municipal election, and to gain their support, she's organizing a Zoom meeting with the delegates on Wednesday, April 14th at 7 p.m., where Monica Hunt and Brandon Cole will speak about their backgrounds, interests, and goals. So, being a precinct delegate does, put you closer to the candidates and gives you this opportunity to get more involved. So those are a couple other things that are going on, and, the role that the precinct delegate plays in helping promote those activities. So that's all. Thanks.
Thanks
I
for
did leave
that.
my email in the chat if anyone wants to contact me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your time with that too. You've done a fantastic job in growing and expanding that job, right, that we've added. I think we've nearly doubled our number of precinct delegates that are filled in our community, and that's in no small part to you. So we really appreciate your time and time to move on to some different things. Yeah, good. Claire's giving you a pat on the back for everybody. And so like I said, if you are interested in this, or if you just have some more questions, you can either email Paul directly, or you can email us at royaloakdemocrat@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you and can kind of sort through that. So that's a position that we would like to begin to phase over in the next couple months, so that someone can take over to handle our municipal elections. So yeah, big thanks to you, and lots of thanks in the chats there. Any other questions for the greater good, or anything that people would like to ask for everybody? No? Okay, awesome. Moving on. We've got a kind of new thing we're going to try. This is something that the board has been interested in implementing over the last couple months that we finally sort of put together. And it's an interest survey. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat there. If you click on that, it will take you to a Google survey that is going to be twofold. Yeah, just acknowledgement. Arv and Tom have also been precinct delegates of the year for Oakland County. So that's, again, we've got a very engaged precinct delegate pool to pull from. So this engagement and interest survey, it's going to serve two purposes for the board. First is to collect a little bit of demographic information. We're interested in who our members are, how long you've been members, and whether or not you're attending meetings regularly. And then the second thing is a little bit about your personal interests. Those things are going to help guide us in making some decisions about future guest speakers, events that we're planning, right, and how we kind of connect you to the resources that we might have. We also want to know a little bit about people's skills. Sometimes we have really, really well attended meetings. We have great membership. We have great engagement on social media and things like that. And we want to turn that membership and interest into people that are doing some of the work, right, that are volunteering, that are helping our candidates get elected, that are on the phones making calls and things like that. And so we want to know sort of what your skills are and what your interest is in becoming involved, so that we can connect you with those resources. So if you want to take, it should take just a couple minutes to fill out. It's not super extensive. It's mostly like tick boxes that you can just click onto. So if you've got a minute to fill that out, we would really appreciate the feedback. It's not mandatory or anything like that, but it's just going to help us get a better idea of how to serve everybody's needs moving forward. The other really exciting announcement that we have is an update about our Tom Regan Youth Activist Scholarship. So if you were in our December meeting, we officially launched and announced, or January meeting, I think maybe January meeting, we officially launched and announced this Tom Regan scholarship. It's not a memorial scholarship. We do need to preface that because every time we talk about it, it kind of sounds like it is. Tom Regan he is alive and well with us, but it is to honor the time and the dedication that he has taken for our club and the things that he's done as an activist and a community member. And we want to encourage young people to be equally involved. So as it stands right now, we are going to award our first ever, hopefully annual scholarship to a graduating high school senior who either lives in or goes to school in Royal Oak or Clawson. We wanted to make sure that we covered any school of choice students as well as people in both private and public schools. And so we think we covered the basis in that respect. I will go ahead and put a link to the actual application form if anybody wants to start sharing it, or if you know young people that might be interested and involved, we'll make sure to publicize this on social media, and we'll be sending it to all the local high schools as well. But we're really proud of this. And the other thing that we are also really proud of is that we're going to be able to offer most likely up to a $2,000 scholarship for this first time around. We were hoping to make it like maybe $250, $500, and with the help and support of the club, we think we're going to be able to offer a $2,000 scholarship, which really could make a huge difference and a huge impact for someone. So there is an anonymous donor from the club that has dedicated a $1,000 matching donation if we can raise the $1,000 from donations for ourselves. At this moment, like Ian said, we are up to $860 of that $1,000. So if you would like to donate to this cause, you can donate directly to it. This is not money that is being pulled from our bank account or from our dues payment. This is a separate thing that people can specifically say, this is what I would like our money to be donated to, because we don't want to misuse any of our funds if people don't want to contribute to this. So on the club Squarespace, right below where you pay dues, there's an option to donate to the scholarship, and you can go ahead and click on that and donate whatever amount you feel comfortable doing. $1, $50, it doesn't matter. Every little bit helps. So if we can make up that $140 in the next 24 hours or so, we're going to go ahead and launch this scholarship on Monday and be able to award a local young person $2,000 for their efforts and their community activism. What the scholarship entails is a little bit of background information, and then like I said, I'll go ahead and put this in the chat, but the two questions that we came up with, and students are going to have the option of choosing between one of these two prompts. The first question is to describe an occasion when you had to organize other people to solve a problem, and how could you use this, how could you use what you learned to fight social injustice in the future? Or what do you consider the most pressing issue in your community? So we felt like both of these were really like action focused, and that we want to hear some ideas from young people about the things that they want, you know, done and worked on in our own community. So there's the link to the document as is right now, with the requirements and everything. And so if you would like to start sharing that with young people, we would love to start collecting some applications for that. We're going to collect applications for the next 2 months through the end of May, and then award someone the scholarship at our June meeting. Any questions, comments about that, clarifications?
We just got another 50, so we're $50 closer. So we only need 90 more dollars to meet that match.
Awesome.
I'll monitor and give an update at the end of the meeting.
I love it. I feel like we're like an NPR telethon. I know those fund drives are frustrating, but this is a really, really good cause and a really interesting new thing. So if we can reach the $1,000 donation, that will be matched by the $1,000 matching donation. We'll be able to offer a $2,000 scholarship to a young person this year, and then any other funds will roll over to begin the collection for next year. William and or Elaine, good question. This is going to go to a graduating senior. There are no grade requirements though, or like acceptance requirements. So it doesn't have to go to someone going to a four-year university. It can just be, the money can be used to pursue whatever post-high school plans they have, but it is going to go to a graduating senior. Good question. Triva, good, thanks. Glad you're excited. I'm really pumped about this. So thanks everybody for the support. Okay, Ian, while you've got the floor, actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about Mitten Politics?
Yeah, so I'm excited. I recorded an episode that I try to keep my episodes about an hour. And the topic is kind of I don't have an episode title for it yet, but it's going to go live on Monday, and it focuses on gender, sexuality, sexual orientation, the difference between sex and gender, the importance of using pronouns. It defines terms like non-binary and demisexual and some of these words that you may not have heard before. And it's designed to be an educational podcast to really help people understand some of these different terms and why they matter. One of the things that's really easy to do and helpful for the community, the trans community specifically, is including pronouns in your name, even if you are not trans. So I see every time I log on, I see more people with pronouns, and I really appreciate that. It normalizes the idea that we should not assume someone's pronouns simply based on their name or appearance. And so adding pronouns is a good way to declare these are my pronouns, so there's no question about what my pronouns are, and also makes it less of a highlight when someone who is trans discloses their pronouns as the only person in the room with their pronouns disclosed. So if anyone's interested in terms of Zoom, you can do that easily by going to the participant panel, selecting your name, and going to rename, where you can then in parentheses add your pronouns. So I just wanted to add that. But the episode, I'm thinking it's going to be 2 parts because it's kind of long. But the first part of that will go live on Monday. And you can find that at Mitten Politics, anywhere that you get your podcasts. I'm also going to, I'll drop the link that's in the agenda for that as well.
Cool, that's been a great addition. Ian's doing a wonderful job. Who is it that you interviewed for that episode?
I interviewed one of my coworkers, Sean Lundy, who is non-binary. And so they had a really great perspective on what their experience was like growing up with a fundamentalist Christian family, and kind of navigating what that experience was like, coming to terms with themselves, as well as, you know, navigating the religious and parental elements of that.
Awesome, thanks for that. So go ahead, subscribe, listen to Ian's podcast. We're really proud of the work that he's been doing with
Oops. I put the wrong link in the chat again.
Oh, that's okay. There's also
that's okay.
A question there from Jeannie. You might need to help her with that. Last announcement before we get into candidate and elected official reports is a quick potential amendment. As I had sent out in our most recent email, it was brought to the board this month about possibly changing our name. And I know that this sounds a little bit dramatic, but there are a couple really good reasons for it. So currently our official club name is the Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club. The proposed amendment would switch our name actually back to the Royal Oak Area Democratic Club. This name was switched a few years ago in our bylaws. We actually can't even nail down the year that it officially changed. But it was changed a few years ago for some different reasons. But legally, we didn't change our name with the IRS. So Ian, do you want to speak a little bit about some of the reasons why we're interested in doing this and what it might ease up?
Yeah, so when the name was changed in, I believe it was 2018, per the bylaws that Arv sent me, at that time, we updated our logo, we updated the way that we started referring to ourselves on social media, but that was all that we updated. So our website is still ROADC, Royal Oak Area Democratic Club. So that's still our web domain. Our IRS name is filed as Royal Oak Area Democratic Club. Our accounts are named Royal Oak Area Democratic Club. And so for all intents and legal purposes, we are the Royal Oak Area Democratic Club and only going by Greater Royal Oak Area Democratic Club. So the easier change would be to simply vote to change back to Royal Oak Area Democratic Club, and then tweak the logo a little bit, tweak our social media names, and that's all that we would have to change. Whereas if we retain the name Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club, that involves a lot more groundwork of updating and changing the website, changing, filing things with the IRS. Someone mentioned filing a DBA, but given the nature of our social club, we are also not currently filed as an official entity. We have an EIN through the IRS, but we are not like an LLC. We are not, and filing all of those papers costs money and takes additional time. So my proposal, and I would like to move to make this change to return the name back to Royal Oak Area Democratic Club, as there is fundamentally no major difference between the two, except what was also pointed out in our board meeting when we discussed this, that people will likely, if they're looking to find us, they're going to look for Royal Oak first. They're not going to search the word greater. In terms of our listing on MDP websites, et cetera, they're alphabetical, so we fall under G. So there's my spiel. I'm happy to answer any additional questions, but it looks like we have a first and a second.
Awesome. Yep, we do have
Mary Mills, I second that motion.
Good. Thanks, Mary. We appreciate that. Any questions or discussion before we jump into a quick vote for this? Just to clarify, like Ian said, this is literally only changing the name on our bylaws and our social media accounts. It's not changing the purpose or mission statement of the club. It's also not changing the geographic area that we cover. So Royal Oak area will still cover the city of Royal Oak and Clawson. We're not cutting out anybody. It's just a change in the actual name. Any questions or comments or clarifications before we do go into a vote?
Lauren, this is Shar. Do the bylaws have provisions for how much notice we have to give for changing our bylaws?
Yeah, so I did link the bylaws in the agenda if you'd like to take a look, but in the amendments section, as long as it's been, so the official process is that an amendment needs to be suggested to the club secretary and then brought to the board. And then the club needs to be notified that there's going to be a vote. And then at our next general meeting, which would be today, is yeah, we will need a new t-shirt. At our general meeting, a 3/4 vote of all members in good standing at the meeting is all that's required to pass.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. William and or Elaine.
Go ahead, Linda. Hi, my question was about the 75%, and you just answered it. It's at present at the meeting. It's not 75% of the membership.
No.
Okay.
Yep, 3/4 of the members at the current meeting in good standing. So if you are unsure of whether or not you've paid your dues, or if you're just need a clarification, I know that Ian does have a list. You can shoot him a private message real quick to double check that. So as long as you've paid your 2021 dues prior to today's meeting, yeah, Jim, this is not a racket to sell more t-shirts. We promise that there are thought out reasons. Like Ian said, most of which are going to be legal, some of which are just logistical so that people can find us, right? If you're new to the community, you're most likely not going to search for the greater club, right? You're going to search for Royal Oak Democratic Club. So if there's any other concerns at all, we know that this is kind of a minor change, but we can go ahead and move into a vote then. We have a proposed amendment to officially change the club name to the Royal Oak Area Democratic Club. How we're going to vote for this is if you click on the reactions option at the bottom of your screen, or I think at the bottom of your participants menu, you should also have a little green yes or a little red no button. You're just going to go ahead and click yes or no, depending on how you would like to vote. I will watch for the totals here and then see if we can get to 75% of our current membership. So go ahead and take about 30, 45 seconds or so to cast your vote. If you'd like to abstain, just hold off and you don't need to enter in a vote. I'm not seeing very many people voting. I don't know if people have just walked away from their computers because our announcements went on too long, or if we're just unsure about, oh, the yeses goes away. Okay. Oh, okay. We're going to need to vote in a slightly different way. We're going to come back to this then. So let's go ahead and move on to our Michigan Democratic Party updates. Mona, I see that you're here. Let me go ahead and set up a poll. That will be a slightly different way. It's just going to take me a second to do. Yeah, I didn't know that they disappeared. Okay, good. All this technology fun. Mona, you here still? Yeah.
Yes. Hi. Hi, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, everybody. Hello, this is Mona Duquie from the Michigan Democratic Party. I'm your regional political organizer. First, I want to take the opportunity to thank Paul for all the work he has done as a liaison, and he has some big shoes to fill, but please feel encouraged. This is a great position. As one of the founding members of DIPDOC, I'm intimately and emotionally engaged in the success. So someone good better step up, take his role. So I want to thank everyone. We just had a great statewide phone bank that we were calling people that were on a list of from the Secretary of State that were going to be purged from the voter rolls because they had moved out of the state or they changed their last names or for various reasons, or they had the nerve to die. Things like that. So we were calling these numbers, really helping to clean up our database, which is called VAN. And across the state, there were like 58,000 people on this list. Oakland County had a ton, over 7,000. In Oakland County, I'm proud to say we were able to get through the list twice. So I want to thank the following folks. I'll just do it really quickly. You know, the indestructible Chuck Altman, the Asher family, Elaine and William, Fred Green, Charlotte Massey, and Daniel Richards. And so those are the folks from Royal Oak that got on board. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, I hope that Lauren is getting a weekly update from our communications director, Abby Ruley, about writing letters to the editor. There's a message, we sent out an MDP message of the week. So if any of you want me to send that to you, I can do that. I'll have my contact information in the chat box. Watch for some other phone banks starting. We're going to start pretty quickly, actually calling folks with a support question for the governor. So that's going to happen much more quickly than we've done in the past, looking ahead to 2022. So look for that as another phone bank opportunity, maybe some lit dropping, but definitely some phone banking that you can do from the comfort of your home in a virtual phone bank. And I think that's about it, unless anyone has any questions. Thank you if you went to our leadership summit, which was a couple weeks ago. And that's about it. Welcome new people.
Thanks for that update. Mona, I do not get those emails, so I will be in touch with you about how to make sure we're getting everybody the information that they need, okay? Any questions for Mona DeQuee? No? All right, seeing none, thanks so much for your time. Any other Michigan Democratic Party announcements or updates? I don't think I'm seeing anybody else on the list. No? Okay.
Oh wait, Lauren, can I just make an announcement?
Oh yeah.
We're gonna have there's gonna be a meeting of the State Central Committee, and I think William Asher and myself will be attending. So I just wanted to let people know. I'm gonna try to share the agenda here. So if you have any input, please get a hold of us.
Great, thanks for that. Any other MDP announcements? Okay. Seeing none, let's jump back to this vote real quick. I know, sorry, that's less than ideal, but we'll get all this stuff done. So in just a second, there is going to be a poll that's going to pop up on your screen. It's just a yes or no multiple choice question. Should the club change our official name to the Royal Oak Area Democratic Club? So you're just going to click yes or no if you are either not a dues paying member or you are if you're either not a dues paying member or you are not interested in voting on this amendment, you can just go ahead and not click anything, and we'll get back to our candidate announcements in about 60 seconds. Okay, so go ahead and good. That amendment, that language should be popping up for you. Oh, if there is more than one member in good standing on your personal call, why don't you go ahead and send me a private message of just a yes or a no. All right, we're gonna leave this poll open for about 10 more seconds. Okay, with an overwhelmingly positive reaction, we have 50 yes votes and 0 no votes. This amendment passes, and we are now officially the Royal Oak Area Democratic Club. Like we said, new logo, new t-shirts coming soon. If you want to come to our drive-by event that is happening right as soon as this meeting is over, our drive-through event, we can get buttons too, sweatshirts. We talked about face masks, so we'll get you all Dem Club swagged out. If you do want to swing by our drive-through event, you can buy our now vintage and collectible Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club t-shirts for a reduced price. So we do still have some of those available. Tom will have them at the Royal Oak Senior Center. Yeah, we're going to offer those just, for a little mini fundraiser. Speaking of funds, Ian did just put in the chat that with your help in just the last few minutes, we surpassed that $1,000 goal. We've matched it with the $1,000 anonymous donation, and we'll be able to offer that very first scholarship for $2,000.
Doesn't matter.
That's so wonderful, everybody, for that. We're going to go ahead and jump to our candidate reports. Belem, I saw that you had put some information about how to get to you in the chat, but do you want to go ahead and talk to everyone real quick? Belem, are you still on the call?
I'm here. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, sorry about that.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. So I'm still collecting signatures to be on the ballot in November for Royal City Commissioner. I hope you all remember, but I ran during the last election cycle and I was, I think, about 200 votes short. So I need to do this again and change the ending to this story. And I hope you can help me. I'm really close. I'm really, really close. So if I can, get everyone to sign this weekend, that would be really, really great. And my address is 2722 North Vermont. There's a big yellow and blue box that will have a petition and pens. And if you sign the petition, please make sure that you fill out the bottom right-hand corner so you can sign it as a voter and also as the person circulating it, because technically you're witnessing your own signature. So thanks again, 2722 North Vermont. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Belen? And baby. All right, great. So you can swing by her house. Her address is in the chat. We also have her petitions available at our drive-through event that is happening this afternoon. Brandon, you're on the call. Do you want to talk about where you're at and where you're collecting petition signatures?
Yeah, so I'll just I'll keep it pretty brief here. We're doing that drive-through event today, so everyone just come out. You can stay in your car, make it nice and easy for you. We've been at the farmers market a couple of weekends. So signature gathering is not the fun part of this. I mean, we are, there's 5 of us who are running for election who are busy trying to do the work of the city at the same time. So it's we have a lot going on, a lot happening. So thank you for everyone's support who comes out. I know we have elected officials update coming up next, so we can talk a lot more then about some of the cool stuff we have going on, particularly in my neighborhood. It's a new park, so I'll leave it at that right now.
Great, thanks. Any other candidates collecting signatures that would like to give an update or say a few words?
Hey, Lauren, can I just jump in really quick? There was a question in the chat about what's the drive-through event?
Oh, yeah, sure. I was just gonna hand it over to Tom in a second, but if you wanna invite people, you can go ahead and do that.
Okay, so just, so I won't steal all Tom's thunder here, but right after this meeting, come down to the senior center and sign petitions. You can stay in your car. We're going, I'll be out there. I know we have a bunch of volunteers. It's been led by Tom and Lauren's helped put this together. I mean, so great Democratic Club support here. So stay in your car. We'll bring a petition to your car. You can sign for all the candidates that you want to sign for. It's going to help us get to that 500 signature threshold. So come right after this from noon until 2 o'clock at the Senior Center.
Good, thanks for that. Monica?
Thank you. Good morning. I just want to say I will also be at the drive-through event after this meeting at the Senior Center. If anyone wants to come out, talk to us, talk about, what it is that we're looking to continue to do as a council. I know Brandon will be there, I'll be there. So we're hoping you'll come out and help us to get our signatures. 500 signatures is a lot to get, especially during the time of COVID. So all of your support is greatly appreciated. We've been at the farmers market for the past 3 weekends. Next weekend, we'll be back there again. So thank you for everyone who came out to help us volunteer to get support and get signatures. And thank you for all of you that have signed our petitions. We greatly appreciate that. But yeah, hope to see you all this afternoon at the drive-through event.
Good. I'm going to kick it over to Tom. We're going to try and do a live on the scene invite here. Tom, can you join us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hey, Tom.
Hello.
Woo.
And we're all set up, so come on over. Got all the petitions right in the parking lot of the Senior Center, and I'll be here until 2 o'clock, or if the cops kick us off, I'll just move it over to the sidewalk. But wait, there's more. Because if you act now, these limited edition Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club t-shirts can be yours for the low, low price of just $10. So even if you've already signed the petitions, if you'd like one of these limited edition Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club t-shirts, come on by and get one for just $10.
But that's not all. You guys didn't know that you were in store for like the sales pitch version of it. First, 24 members, right? The first 24 people who come through are going to get a can of Vernors on their way out, provided by Mike James to celebrate the Teamsters, the Teamsters victory this week. So we've got all sorts of things. Just come by. If you have not yet signed the petitions, we really need your help in getting to that 500 threshold. Just to keep in mind, there are a couple different restrictions on who can sign and when you can sign. So a few of the rules are that you need to be a registered Royal Oak voter in order to sign the petitions. So you do have to be 18 and older with an address in the city of Royal Oak. The address for the Royal Oak Senior Center is 3500 Murray Avenue. It's just off 13 Mile. Just keep in mind that there are different restrictions about the amount of petitions that you can sign. So currently we've got 6 club members running for trying to get on the ballots in November. Current incumbent Mayor Mike Fournier is running for re-election. That is a 2-year term. You can sign 1 nominating petition for mayor. There are 3 people, 3 are our incumbents running for the 4-year term for city commission. They are Brandon Colo, who it was appointed in the fall and will be running for reappointment, I guess, in November, Shar Douglas and Melanie Macy. And then there are 2 club members running for the 2-year term, which are Monica Hunt. She is our incumbent. She was appointed in January and will be running for that spot. And Belem, who you just heard from, Belem Morales. So just keep in mind that you can only sign 3 of the 4-year terms and 1 of the 2-year terms. I know, so many numbers. Mike Twinkie Fournier, there was some jokes about him on Facebook this week about hoarding the Twinkies. So come by. We will bring all 5 nominating petitions that you want to sign. We have all 6 available. We'll bring you the 5 that you want to sign to your car door. You don't need to come out. We'll be masked up. We'll be sanitizing things in between, and we'll make that as safe as possible. Mike Fournier is traveling back from vacation with his family. So that being said, I want to go ahead and move into our elected official reports. If you are an elected official currently on the call, why don't you go ahead and raise your hand and we will get to you. There is a lot going on in the city. I'm sure we will talk a little bit about the Veterans Monument. And we'll go ahead and hear from everybody. Jim Ellison, would you like to speak first?
Sure, I'll go first. I don't have much to say. Like I said early in the meeting, I thought we were meeting next week, so I didn't prepare a presentation. But we are right now currently in our in-district work break for last week and this coming week, and so we're taking care of a lot of in-district, mostly Zoom meetings right now, but it's keeping us busy. Legislative wise, up in Lansing, we had a big push here just before we broke, and we passed off the floor a number of Freedom of Information Act bills that will make it easier, make the elected officials, legislature, and governor more responsive to freedom of request. We are one of 2 states that do not subject our governor and legislature to the Freedom of Information Act. And so we are working to change that. That is bipartisan support, so I expect it to pass. The other second package we did was a healthcare package, which is going after the cost of healthcare, going after the cost of medicines and how medicines are delivered. Again, that was another full bipartisan package. So we expect support on that. The only real snag we have going in right now is the Republicans still holding up the appropriations for the federal money that we received. They are still hanging on to their tie bar insistence that the governors give up some of her emergency power actions before they'll let this money get distributed to the school districts and the cities that need it. So again, it's simply partisan play. They don't want to change, and it doesn't matter even if the bills were to pass, the governor would veto, which she's already done twice. And so we're in a stalemate. So we don't know the answer. Hopefully the Republicans, and as they continue to embarrass themselves nationally, they find a conscience and say, let's get this money out, because it's our money. We've got it. It's sitting there. We can't apportion it out until majority says we can. And it just, that's the ugly side of working in government like that. So keep the pressure on your Republican friends to keep the pressure on their Republican representatives, and maybe we can get past this. But you know, we're expecting to get back here April 13th. We're back in session, and we're going to have a full docket full of bills to deal with and push through. I will say, and I want to add a comment to Shar and Kathleen's presentation earlier. It's a great presentation, and I wholeheartedly agree. I do want to run the cautionary flag up there. When we did this back in 1999, it was a very divisive program, and it created a lot of hurt feelings within the community, and we paid for those hurt feelings for a very, very long time. And in reality, we're still paying for those. And so I just want everybody to think this is going to be a slam dunk. We're going to sit down and all be nicey and change the master plan of the city of Royal Oak that more than likely will go in a direction that some people don't want. And so you're going to get pushback. So having gone through the process, I just want everybody to be aware. I mean, we'll get through it. It'll be a good thing. A lot of changes need to happen. Yeah, just a cautionary tale that's what's in our future. So that's all I got. Anybody have any questions?
It looks like Alec does. Alec, you've got a question for Representative Ellison.
Thank you. Representative Ellison, I know we've seen a lot of movement in the Senate with the voter suppression bills, the 39 that were introduced by Shirkey. Is there any word on how those are moving through the House, if those have a lot of support, if they're going to get scheduled hearings, or you know?
No, yeah, we haven't seen them yet. They just came off the Senate floor, so it's going to be up to Republican leadership whether they want to present them to committee or present them to the floor. I suspect that just to be a party unison, they will present them to the floor, and they will be voted on, and they will probably be passed only because the Republicans are a close fraternity, and you know, they can't do one thing without following the direction of another. But as of right now, it's not on our docket. We haven't seen it on any agenda. I imagine when they finally decide to move with it, it will move quickly, and then we'll have to deal with the outcroppings after that. So, you know, barring any Super Bowls or All-Star games or anything else that we can kick out of the state of Michigan, we're going to have to go follow this ride through until we can fight it back.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions for Representative Ellison? Great, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
It looks like we have a few of our city commissioners with some local updates. Pat, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Thank you. We're going to split up the issues this morning since I think there are 3 of us here this morning. Kyle, I think, is traveling too. He's not able to join us this morning. I'm going to pick the construction project that is going on downtown and give you an update on that. Of course, you all know that we've moved into the city hall and the new police station. So what the focus of the construction right now is in the new park. The asbestos remediation in both the old police station and the city hall apparently is complete. So the next stage of the demolition process is to take down that really tall radio tower that's attached to the police station. That's supposed to happen this week. So if you want to go down there and watch that process, that should be pretty interesting. It's going to take a while to get that down. The radio communications have been moved over to the new tower, which is on 4th Street next to the AT&T building. We're leasing space from them. We're part of the Oakland County Communications, Emergency Communications Network, and so that's all been relocated over there to that tower on the AT&T property. So anyway, the tower is going to come down, and once the tower comes down, they can actually start the demolition of the buildings, which will happen over a period of a month or so, and all of that debris will be hauled away. And once that happens, then they can actually start on the actual park construction, the leveling of the land, including adding an awful lot of new soil and subsurface that will support grass and trees and other landscaping that will be in the park. And then they will move forward. The goal still is to have it finished by the end of October, by Halloween or by October 31st. They think that's a doable objective. And we signed or approved contracts for the 7 trade portions of that project: the electrical work, the plumbing, the landscaping, the concrete work, at our first meeting in March. So those contracts are all in force and we're moving forward, and it's still our goal to get it done by the end of October and hopefully have some events there in the fall that will be all open to the public. So that's kind of my update here in terms of the construction that's going on downtown. I don't know if anybody has any questions. And I will tell you that I can't read chat very easily on my screen. So if there are questions in chat, I can't see them.
Yeah, actually there is one from Janice. Has anything happened with the lawsuit against the city regarding the movement of the communications tower?
My understanding is that lawsuit has gone away. I could be corrected, but I don't believe that that is still pending.
I'll chime in. It is not. The suit was rejected for technical reasons, standing being among them.
That's right. That's right. Shar is correct.
Okay. All right. Good information. Any other questions for Pat? Okay. Monica.
Good morning again. I'm happy to announce that on Wednesday, the commission approved the ability of our city manager to enter into discussions with a potential new city attorney. We voted unanimously to select Aaron Leal as the new city manager. To replace the interim city manager. Mr. Leal is currently a city attorney with the city of Denton, Texas. Prior to that, he was a city attorney for the city of McAllen, Texas. He comes with a wealth of experience. He started his law career here in Michigan, in Grand Rapids. He was with a larger firm in that area. And he was selected out of a few dozen applicants. It was a rigorous process. It was about a 4-round process. We had a recruiter come in and review all of the applications and weed them down to 6 individuals. The first round was with the commission. It was an hour-long interview per applicant. And there were 4 interviews held a little over 3 weeks ago. And after that first round, they were reduced down to 2 applicants who met with earlier this week with city staff, who was able to give their feedback on the applicants and provide that feedback to the commission. And then those 2 applicants again came before the commission and again answered questions from us for another hour. So it was quite a long and rigorous process, but from that we got what we believe is a really good city attorney that's going to be able to step right in. We have a number of issues that he will have to handle on day one, and we are fully believe that he will hit the ground running. So hopefully we will have a contract with him very soon, and he and his family can move here and start working on behalf of this great city. So if you see him around, be sure to say hello.
Good, thanks for that. That's exciting news. Any questions for Monica? No? All right, cool. If you do want to speak to her one-on-one, like Monica and Brandon both said, I think that they are planning on being at the drive-thru event. So if you do want to speak with anyone, you're more than welcome to come spend some time with us there. Brandon, last city update.
Thanks, Lauren. So I'm just going to end with a couple fun things we have going on. First of all, looking over the last month, you know, we've had a lot of businesses opening up, changing plans. You know, we've approved new liquor licenses, expansions of restaurants. So, I mean, there's a lot of growth that's continuing to happen here in Royal Oak. And coming up, you know, everyone knows we have, we're going to have an appropriation from the federal government. That number has not been finally decided yet. But that's going to be big decisions for the city commission to make on how we continue to recover. Wherever that number is, if it's, you know, 3 million, 13 million, 30 million, however much we get is, you know, we need to put together a 3-year plan to make sure that we're using those funds wisely to continue the growth and make sure that our community continues to prosper and people are safe. You have to excuse my kids yelling in the background. I mean, it's Zoom, we're all home. What can I do here? So, you know, we have that money that, so this is gonna be a conversation that we start, but it's for the betterment of the community. So there's a lot that can be done with that, and it's gonna take a lot of good decision-making. Some more really fun stuff is on the south side, we just approved contracts to improve Lawson Park. It's a $1.2 million improvement to Lawson Park. It's gonna be a huge, complete change of what the space currently looks like. And it's a really nice investment too. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're improving the berms. So there's a lot going on down here. And then looking forward to next year's CBDG grant allocations, we're looking at finishing up some Southside projects and improving more parks. That's been a goal that the City Commission, long before I joined on, and it's continuing to the future. So there's just a lot of good new investment and improvement in the city. It's a fun time. So that's all I have right now. So I do see that Representative Ellison asked about Franklin Park. Franklin Park was originally planned for 2020 this year. Unfortunately, the funding allocations with CBDG, it was over. So it is the first park in for 2021. And I believe watching the rehab board meeting the other night, it's going to be the first park done. And we have the contractor has agreed to keep their price, Jim, so that we can execute a contract in the start of the 21 year, which is July. So I would see Franklin probably getting done this summer. So, and I see Pat Perush nodding her head, so I must be right.
Good. Any questions for Brandon? Awesome. Shar?
Yeah, very briefly, every 2 years, in this case, it was a 3-year gap, but every 2 years, the city conducts a opinion survey that is done by an independent agency with questions that are very neutrally written and are questions that are asked of cities across the United States and across the state of Michigan. It's a statistically valid sample size conducted by Cobalt Research. And we just got the results here at one of our last meetings. And Lauren, I'm going to go ahead. I still have screen sharing privileges here. If I can find my mouse, there it is.
Yeah, please do. That's great.
I will come to Mama. Share this screen. So this is the highlights of it. You'll see the blue columns are cities of a comparable size across the nation. The red columns are cities in the Midwest. The green are in Michigan, and Royal Oak's stats are the last 2 columns on the right. And you will see Royal Oak overwhelmingly outperforming its comparable cities in the opinions of the people who live here regarding our image overall, our being a safe place to live, our being enjoyable for children, for young adults, for seniors, and I can't read the last column because it's covered by my screen here. If I do this. Yeah, and then the last column is an enjoyable place for people to visit. So we're outperforming our peer cities across the country. There's always room for improvement, and everything we do as a city commission is to make things better for the people of Royal Oak, but I think we have a lot to be proud of.
That's really great news. Are those survey results and like that graph and everything going to be made public and like shareable? Is that something that we can help, justify and support the changes and decisions that have been made?
Yeah, I'll try to put it in the chat. I'm somewhat impaired by the small screen on my laptop, but if you go to the city's website and look for the city managers page, they're right on Mr. Brake's page. There's a link to the summary where you can see the bar charts that I just showed. There's also a link to all of the data. So if you really want to geek out, that's the place to go.
There is a question in the chat about this this allotment that Brandon had mentioned. Are there concerns that the $29.7 million will be decreased given that Royal Oak was allotted $502 per resident and surrounding committees received $99? I'm not sure where those figures are coming from. Does that question make sense to our commissioners?
I guess I'll take it quickly.
Okay,
I can't validate those numbers. I don't know if those numbers are accurate or not. I'll say that our city manager is working with federal representatives to make sure that our funds are correct, and we will plan accordingly.
All right, thanks for that clarification.
There's another thing that you should understand is that 29.7 million is spread over 2 years. So we don't get all of that in 1 year. We get about 15 million this fiscal year and approximately 15 million the next fiscal year. So how that's apportioned and what we can use it for and whether or not that's a fair apportionment given how it's all come down, they're still taking a look at that. It's a really complicated bill. And every community is just kind of scratching their heads and trying to work their way through it at this point. But it's not all coming at once. It's going to get split into two allocations over 2 years.
Good, thanks for those clarifications. Any other announcements from elected officials? I don't think I'm seeing anybody from the county on the call right now. Any questions for our committee commissioners or Representative Ellison before we move on to just some last minute announcements? No? Okay. As always, you can reach us via email, right? It's easy to reach out to our city commissioners or we can funnel. Good, thanks for that link, Shar. We can funnel questions to them as well. You can always email us at royaloakdemocrat@gmail.com. So last couple announcements. We've got a really jam-packed April coming up with some really exciting events and actual in-person events too, which is really, really great. We can begin to enjoy our spring weather here a little bit. So we hardly ever have back-to-back meetings like this, but next weekend, next Saturday at 11 a.m., if you would like to join us, we've got a really special event with Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. He ran for governor in the last election cycle and has written several books. His first was called Healing Politics, and his second, that just came out about 3 weeks ago, is called Medicare for All. We're going to be doing a virtual book signing with him. This is pretty exciting the way that this is going to work. So next weekend, he's going to be joining us on Zoom. That event is free. You are welcome to come. It's going to be about an hour long. He's going to tell us a little bit about his background and experience in the city of Detroit and dealing with health policy across the state of Michigan. And then he'll take questions from the audience. If you would like to, we are then also offering a pre-sale of signed copies of both of his books. We've partnered with BookBeat in Oak Park. Yeah, the links are all right in there, Paul. So if you click on the Facebook event, or if you go to our most recent email blast from the club, there's details there about how to order. There's a link to both books. You can order as many copies as you want. You can get them for gifts in the future, or you can get copies, for yourself. BookBeat is really excited about this event. They have also been promoting it. They are offering the books to us at a 20% discount, which is really cool. It's also a way to support a local independent bookstore rather than purchasing them on Amazon. And then Dr. El-Sayed will meet with us following the event. He'll sign all the copies that we've pre-sold, and then we'll send you a message saying that they're ready for pickup. You can either pick them up at the door of BookBeat in Oak Park, or there's a $3.99 flat fee shipping that we'll send them out to you as soon as they're signed and in. So that will be following the event. So you can pre-order those books up through the event next Saturday. So like if you don't know anything about Dr. El-Sayed and you'd like to come to the event and then like what he has to say, you can purchase the books during the talk as well. So we're really excited about that. That's a pretty cool opportunity that is happening next Saturday on Zoom for free, with the option to pre-order those books from BookBeat as well. The Facebook event is in the chat. The links are inside of that event to pre-order the books, or you can check out the links there from our most recent email as well. So BookBeat has been awesome. We're excited to partner with them and support that as well. So that's a really exciting upcoming thing. We also then have our April Bar Night coming up on April 15th. Arv, do you want to talk a little bit about Bar Night and the format for that? You still with us?
Yeah. So Bar Night is just we'll carry on the conversation, you know, that we had at this meeting, and it's just a more informal way to have discussion and share news. Right? Did I leave anything out, Lauren?
No, I don't think so. Our bar nights are hosted by Paul Curtis, and so he's been doing a great job emceeing those. So come join us. It's just, like Arv said, a little bit more informal way for us to meet each other and discuss politics. And then the last event for the month is going to be our annual park cleanup. The club every year adopts Cummingston Park, and we're going to be doing a little pickup and cleanup there. That event is on Saturday, April 24th at 10 a.m. We're usually there about 2 hours. If you want to bring your own tools, you can. We'll have some rakes and things like that on hand. But we'll just do a little bit of, we'll spend a little bit of time there. We usually like walk the perimeter, pick up some trash, do some raking and yard cleanup and things like that. And then the city comes by and picks up the bags of refuse. So that's just a chance, like I said, for us to get outside, actually meet in person. We will wear masks. But other than that, it's going to be our first actual in-person event of the year. I know that things are changing kind of on a day-to-day basis. Numbers in Michigan are looking quite bad. So please continue to do what you need to do to keep yourself safe and healthy. The restrictions right now on meetings are 25 people in person inside. So it's still going to be a little while before we're able to offer back to our in-person monthly meetings. But we're hoping to maybe do some outside events in the coming months just so that we can get back to seeing each other and you know, appreciating our time in person. Are there any other announcements, events, or updates from the membership that anybody would like to mention or advertise or talk about? No? Okay. I am, oh yeah, Arv.
Sorry, Paula posted this in the chat, but the you know, we have a Indivisible Fighting 9 meeting on the 14th. So, and there's other stuff in there, but.
Oh yeah, thanks for that. Yep, Paula Mante shared some event about the Indivisible Fighting 9. It's in the chat, and I'll also be sure to follow up with an email that includes that if anybody is interested in engaging with that group as well. Any other events or announcements, comments, well wishes?
We've had 2 people come by and sign, so we have 22 Verners left.
Woohoo! Awesome. So we will wrap up this meeting so that you can all race each other for those vintage t-shirts and free Verners. So get yourself there. Like we said, we want to make it as easy as possible. So if you have not yet signed those nominating petitions, get out there, go support our club members. Yeah, grabbing lunch and then maybe stopping by as well or on your way out there. So it's at the Royal Oak Senior Center. Tom and Mike are out there right now. And then as soon as this call is over, a few of us will be heading out there to help as well. Okay. Any other announcements for the greater good? No. Happy Easter tomorrow to all of you celebrating. Enjoy this kind of sunny day. It looks a little cold though from Tom's presence here. So bundle up and get out there with us. And we will see you all hopefully at some of our April events or at next month's May meeting. We're going to be joined by Julie Lyons-Brinker, who is engaged with our Royal Oak sustainability and environmental efforts, and we're going to be hearing from her to kind of round out Earth Month, which is April, and some of the environmental efforts that we're doing as a city. Yeah, we'll be out there. We'll be at the Senior Center until 2 o'clock. Okay, awesome. Thanks for joining us, everybody. It was great to see you. Have an awesome month, and we will talk soon. Bye. See ya. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.